Tensions between Arabs and Israelis have been high since the State of Israel was created in 1948, and occasionally those tensions have led to actual armed conflict. The most recent example started early on the morning of October 7th, 2023. A few basics to start here. The Gaza Strip is a 25-mile-long and 6.2-mile-wide territory between Israel, Egypt, and the Mediterranean Sea. It is home to about 2.3 million people and has one of the highest population densities in the world. Israel controls the airspace over Gaza and its shoreline and restricts who and what goods are allowed in and out through its border crossings. Similarly, Egypt controls who passes in and out through its border with Gaza. Now, these attacks were carried out by Hamas. Hamas is a Palestinian Islamic militant group which rules the Gaza Strip. Hamas is sworn to Israel's destruction and has fought several wars with Israel since it took power in Gaza in 2007. Hamas is designated a terrorist group by Israel, the United States, the European Union, and the UK, as well as other powers. At 0630 on October 7th, Hamas launched several thousand rockets with various levels of sophistication from the Gaza Strip toward the Israeli urban centers of Ashkelon, Rehovot, and Tel Aviv, which is 60 miles away. The number of rockets overwhelmed Israel's missile defense system, and damage on the ground was much more extensive than normally seen during these sorts of attacks. At 0740, Hamas launched a coordinated air-sea-land offensive into Israel, using bulldozers to breach physical barriers, assault craft to land on the Mediterranean beaches, and paragliders to attack from the air. Targets were civilian centers and Israeli military outposts along the roads between the Gaza Strip and southern Israel. Towns hit include Megan, Kfar Az, and Natif HaAzara. Israel claims at least 350 citizens were killed in the initial attacks, and video evidence shows that several dozen Israeli civilians and Israeli Defense Force personnel were taken hostage, complicating Israel's initial response. Hamas also took possession of a number of Israeli tanks located at an IDF outpost just north of the Gaza Strip. In response, Benjamin Netanyahu declared war on Hamas. Within hours of the initial terrorist incursions, the Israeli Air Force conducted airstrikes on targets inside the Gaza Strip using fixed-wing strike aircraft and Apache attack helicopters armed with rockets and missiles. Several Apaches were reportedly hit by ground fire, but exact losses are unknown. The IDF has stated that its initial counter-strategy is to secure the communities that were attacked by neutralizing Hamas terrorists that remain inside Israel, while at the same time shoring up 29 Hamas breach points along the border to the Gaza Strip. IDF spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Richard Hecht said that the IDF also intends to carry out surgical strikes against Hamas targets while trying to minimize collateral damage, but warned that Israel's response was going to be, quote, aggressive and severe, end quote. The IDF has refused to say whether Israel's military response will include ground forces, but did state that, quote, all options are on the table, end quote. However, an aggressive and severe response by the IDF will also need to be tempered by Israel's concerns around opening up a three-front conflict. Hezbollah and Hamas do not get along, but this could turn into one of those enemy of my enemy is my friend situations if regional terrorist groups feel that Israel's response is disproportionate. This Hamas attack is being described as Israel's 9/11 because of its scale and the fact that Israel seems to have been caught completely by surprise. When asked about what appears to be a huge intelligence failure by a country that has traditionally prided itself on staying ahead of threats, Lieutenant Colonel Hecht replied that the IDF was going to, quote, kick that can down the road for now, end quote, while focusing on neutralizing immediate threats securing the country. And like 9/11, the Hamas attacks seem to have unified the country that has been somewhat divided by the actions of the Netanyahu government in recent years. Leaders from the Israeli opposition party have vowed support for a strong response against Hamas by the IDF. In terms of the geopolitics of the situation, without picking sides, the leaders of Turkey, Jordan, and Egypt have all called for an immediate cessation of hostilities. The United States and EU have pledged support for Israel. The U.S. does have troops in Israel, and without giving exact composition or locations, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has stated that they are out of harm's way and not involved in the conflict so far. Some experts have said that the timing of this attack is a function of Iran's influence over Hamas. Iran funds Hamas and provides training and weapons. Specifically, in the case of these attacks, the missiles with ranges long enough to reach Tel Aviv and the drones that were used to help breach the walls of IDF combat outposts. Iran is particularly unhappy that Saudi Arabia is in the process of exploring normalization of relations with Israel and could be using Hamas as a proxy to disrupt any progress of that normalization. More on this unfolding conflict as the information becomes available, so if you're not already a subscriber, become one so you don't miss anything. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please consider using the super thanks, the heart icon below, or become a patron at patreon.com/WardCarroll. In the meantime, I look forward to talking to you again very soon.